My parents skipped my MIT PhD graduation for my sister's boyfriend's birthday. I was standing backstage at my PhD graduation ceremony when I checked my phone one last time. My sister Blair had posted a new Instagram story. I should not have looked, but I did. There they were. My mother, my father, Blair, and her boyfriend Chase. They were sitting in front of a fireplace at a ski resort. Champagne glasses raised. Snow falling outside the window behind them. Everyone smiling like they did not have a care in the world. The caption read, "Best birthday weekend ever," with a skiing emoji and a champagne emoji. The location tag said Aspen, Colorado. I stared at that photo for a long time. 1 week ago, I had called my mother to remind her about today. I told her I had reserved 3 seats in the front row, 3 seats for my family. I told her this was the biggest day of my academic career. I was not just graduating with a PhD from MIT, I was giving the valedictorian speech. She had said they would be there. She said they were proud of me. She said they would not miss it for the world. They were 1,000 miles away, drinking champagne and celebrating my sister's boyfriend's birthday. The ceremony coordinator tapped my shoulder and told me it was almost time. I walked toward the stage entrance and looked out at the audience, hundreds of faces. Families clutching flowers and cameras. Parents wiping away tears before the ceremony even started. And in the front row, 3 seats with small cards that read "Reserved for Family." All 3 were empty. Before I continue, I want to know who is here with me. Drop a comment. What city are you watching from, and what time is it there right now? I love seeing where this story travels. Okay, let me take you back to the beginning. My name is Adrienne. I am 31 years old, and I just completed my PhD in neuroscience at MIT. My research focused on early detection of Alzheimer's disease, specifically developing methods that could identify the condition years before symptoms appear. The goal was simple: give families more time to prepare, more time to make memories, more time to say the things that matter before the disease takes everything. Ironic, really. I spent years trying to help other families hold on to each other. Meanwhile, my own family had let go of me a long time ago. I have a younger sister named Blair. She is 3 years younger than me and has been my parents' favorite for as long as I can remember. Blair was the one they talked about at dinner parties. Blair was the one whose photos covered every surface in their house. Blair was the one who could do no wrong, while I was the one who could never do enough. Growing up, I told myself it did not matter. I told myself that if I just worked harder, achieved more, and caused less trouble, eventually they would see me too. I was wrong about that. I was wrong about a lot of things. Let me give you an example. When Blair graduated from high school, my parents threw a party that lasted an entire weekend. They invited everyone: aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors, family, friends. They rented a tent for the backyard. They hired a caterer. My father gave a speech about how proud he was of his little girl. I was there, standing in the corner, watching my family celebrate like Blair had cured a disease instead of simply finishing high school. When I graduated from high school 2 years earlier, my parents took me to dinner at a chain restaurant. Just the 4 of us. No speech. No party. My mother spent most of the meal talking about Blair's upcoming dance recital. That was the first time I realized that no matter what I accomplished, it would never be enough. But I kept trying anyway. When I got into MIT for my undergraduate degree, I thought things might change. MIT, one of the most prestigious universities in the world. Surely that would get their attention. My mother's response was to ask if I could come home for Blair's birthday that weekend, instead of attending orientation. I went to orientation. I figured they would come around eventually. They did not come to my undergraduate graduation. Blair had a vacation planned with her friends, and my parents did not want her to travel alone, so they all went to the beach instead. They did not come to my master's graduation. My father said they had a prior commitment, though I never found out what it was. And now for my PhD graduation, the culmination of years of research and sacrifice, and late nights and moments when I wanted to give up but did not, they were in Aspen, celebrating Chase's birthday. Chase, who I had met exactly twice. Chase, who had been dating my sister for less than a year. Chase, whose birthday was apparently more important than the biggest achievement of my entire life. I want to tell you that I was surprised when I saw that Instagram post. But I was not surprised. I was just tired. Tired of hoping they would change. Tired of making excuses for them. Tired of pretending that one day they would finally see me the way they saw Blair. I had spent my entire life saving seats for people who never showed up. And here I was again, standing backstage at my own graduation, staring at 3 empty chairs with reserved for family cards that no one would ever sit in. Something shifted inside me in that moment. I had written a speech. A safe speech. The kind of speech valedictorians always give. Thank your professors, thank your classmates, say something inspiring about the future, sit down, accept your applause. Standing there, looking at those empty chairs, I decided I was not going to give that speech. But before I tell you what I said on that stage, I need to tell you about the one person who actually showed up. Her name was Dr. Patricia. She had been my faculty advisor for the past 4 years. She was the one who believed in my research when no one else did. She was the one who pushed me when I wanted to quit. She was the one who read every draft of my dissertation at 2 a.m. and sent back notes by sunrise. Dr. Patricia was 63 years old and had been at MIT for over 30 years. She had mentored hundreds of students, won countless awards, and could have retired years ago, but she kept working because she believed that what we were doing mattered. When I reserved those 3 seats for my family, I also reserved a 4th seat. For her. That morning, Dr. Patricia called me. She said her daughter's family was in town from California, and they had planned a special brunch to celebrate her granddaughter's acceptance to medical school. I told her I understood. I told her family comes first. I told her I would see her after the ceremony. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said she would be there. I said she did not have to miss her granddaughter's celebration. I said it was fine. She said some moments only happen once, and she was not going to let me stand up there alone. That afternoon, when I looked out at the audience from the side of the stage, 3 chairs were empty. But the 4th chair, the one at the end of the row, was not. Dr. Patricia was sitting there in her best dress, clutching a small bouquet of flowers, smiling at me like I was her own daughter. She had left her family celebration early to be there for me. A woman who shared none of my blood, had shown more love in that single act than my actual family had shown in 31 years. The ceremony coordinator touched my arm and said it was time. I walked to the podium and looked out at the audience. Hundreds of faces staring back at me, waiting for the typical valedictorian speech full of gratitude and optimism. I looked down at my prepared remarks. Safe words. Expected words. Words that would not make anyone uncomfortable. Then I looked at those 3 empty chairs. And I looked at Dr. Patricia, who had given up time with her own family just to be there for me. I folded my prepared speech and set it aside. I gripped the edges of the podium and took a deep breath. And then I told the truth. What I said in that speech would change everything. It would go viral. It would make my family furious. And it would reach millions of people who understood exactly what it felt like to be invisible to the people who were supposed to love you the most. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you what I actually said. I stood at that podium and looked out at the audience. My prepared speech sat folded on the lectern, untouched. Instead, I spoke from somewhere deep inside me, from a place that had been silent for too long. I started by thanking my professors and classmates, the way every valedictorian does. I thanked the university for the opportunity. I thanked the research teams I had worked with. Then I paused. I told the audience I needed to say something that was not in my prepared remarks. I pointed to the front row, to 3 empty seats with small white cards that read, "Reserved for family." I said those seats were supposed to be for my mother, my father, and my sister. I said my mother had promised they would be there. I said that right now, at this very moment, my family was at a ski resort in Aspen, celebrating my sister's boyfriend's birthday. A murmur went through the crowd. I kept talking. I told them this was not the first time. I told them about my undergraduate graduation when they went to the beach instead. My master's graduation when they had a prior commitment they never explained. I told them I had spent years studying Alzheimer's disease, trying to help families have more time together before the disease takes everything. And then I said the words that would eventually be shared millions of times. The greatest irony of my life was that I had dedicated my career to helping families stay connected, while my own family had disconnected from me a long time ago. The auditorium was completely silent. I looked at Dr. Patricia in the 4th seat. She was crying, but she was nodding at me. "Keep going," her eyes said. So I kept going. I said I was not telling this story to make anyone feel sorry for me. I was telling it because I knew there were people in that auditorium who understood exactly what those empty chairs meant. People who had spent their whole lives trying to earn love that should have been given freely. I said disappointment is data. It tells you who is really in your corner and who is just pretending. I told them to stop saving seats for people who never show up. to stop shrinking themselves to make room for people who refuse to see them. I looked at Dr. Patricia one more time. I said, family is not about blood. Family is about who shows up. I told the audience there was a woman in the front row who had left her own family's celebration to be here today. A woman who shared none of my DNA, but had shown me more support in 4 years than my biological family had shown in 31. I pointed to her and said that was what family looked like. Dr. Patricia wiped her eyes and gave a small wave. I said my final words. Look around at who is actually sitting beside you today. Notice who made the effort. Build your life around those people, because those are the people who matter. Then I said thank you and stepped back. For a moment, nothing happened. Then someone in the middle of the auditorium stood up. Then another. Then another. Within seconds, the entire audience was on their feet. The applause was deafening. People were crying. Strangers were hugging each other. Parents were squeezing their children tighter. Dr. Patricia was standing too, tears streaming down her face, clapping harder than anyone. I had expected judgment. I had expected whispers about how inappropriate it was. Instead, I got a standing ovation. I walked off that stage in a daze. Classmates hugged me and told me I had said what they had always felt. Professors shook my hand with tears in their eyes. Dr. Patricia found me in the crowd and wrapped her arms around me without saying a word. When she finally let go, she said she was proud of me, not for the PhD, for being brave enough to tell the truth. That was when I finally cried. What I did not know was that someone had recorded my speech. By morning, the video had millions of views. By the end of the week, it had spread across the world. Comments were flooded with messages from people who said they had watched it crying because it described their own families perfectly. People who said they finally realized they were not crazy for feeling invisible. People who said they were going to stop saving seats for people who never showed up. The phrase empty chairs became something bigger than my story. People started posting their own experiences. Photos of empty seats at graduations, weddings, hospital rooms. It became a movement of people who had been unseen by their families but were finally seeing each other. I read hundreds of those messages. Each one broke my heart and healed it at the same time. My family's reaction was different. Within days, all 3 of them had reached out. Not to apologize, not to acknowledge that anything I said was true, only to tell me I had humiliated them. My mother called to say I had embarrassed them in front of everyone they knew. My father sent a single text saying I should be ashamed of myself. Blair wrote that I had ruined Chase's birthday weekend and demanded I take down the video. None of them asked if I was okay. None of them admitted they had broken their promise. Their only concern was how they looked. I asked my mother one question. Was there a single lie in anything I said? She did not answer. Instead, she told me I was always too sensitive, that I always made everything about myself, that I never appreciated what they did for me. I realized then that she was never going to understand. She would rather call me ungrateful than admit she had spent my entire life making me feel invisible. The media requests started coming. News outlets wanted interviews. Podcasts wanted my story. Organizations wanted me to give speeches. For a moment, I considered it. The attention was overwhelming. Part of me wanted to use this platform to help others. But then I thought about why I had spent years in a laboratory. I thought about the Alzheimer's patients I had met, the families running out of time. That was my purpose. Not fame, not revenge. So I said no to almost everything. I gave one interview to explain my research and encourage funding for Alzheimer's studies. I declined the rest. The video stayed up because I could not control it anymore. But I stopped feeding the fire and went back to work. The hardest part was not my family's anger. The hardest part was the silence that came after. My mother stopped calling after the first week. My father never called at all. Blair blocked me on social media. Aunts and uncles suddenly had nothing to say. Cousins stopped responding to messages. I had been erased. In their minds, I was the villain. It did not matter that everything I said was true. All that mattered was that I had made them look bad. Late at night, alone in my apartment, I felt the weight of it. The silence where there used to be at least the hope of connection. I wondered if I had made a mistake, if I should have just given the safe speech and pretended everything was fine. Then I thought about all those messages from strangers who said my words had changed something for them, who said they finally felt seen. And I knew I had made the right choice. Some truths need to be spoken, even when they cost you everything. Months passed. The video eventually stopped trending, but the messages never completely stopped. Every few days, someone new would find it and write to tell me their story. I kept every single one. I went back to my research, back to the lab, back to the work that actually mattered. The Alzheimer's project was reaching a critical phase. We were close to publishing findings that could change how the disease was detected, findings that could give families years of extra time with their loved ones before the symptoms took hold. I threw myself into that work. It was easier than thinking about my own family, easier than sitting with the silence that had replaced whatever relationship we used to have. Dr. Patricia checked on me often. She never pushed me to talk about what happened, but she made sure I knew she was there. Sometimes she would bring coffee to my office and sit with me for a few minutes, not saying much, just being present. That was what real support looked like. Quiet, consistent, asking for nothing in return. Then, about 4 months after graduation, my mother called. I almost did not answer. Her name on my screen still made my stomach tighten, but something made me pick up. Her voice was different this time, softer, almost sweet. She asked how I was doing. She said she had been thinking about me. She said she wanted to put everything behind us and move forward as a family. For a moment, I felt something loosen in my chest. Maybe she had finally understood. Maybe the months of silence had given her time to reflect. Maybe this was the apology I had been waiting for my entire life. Then she told me why she was really calling. She said there was a charity event coming up, a fundraiser for a local organization she was involved with. She said it would mean so much if I could make an appearance. Maybe give a short speech. She said my name would really help them sell tickets. I was quiet for a long moment. She kept talking. She said it would be good publicity for my research too. She said it was a win-win. She said this could be a fresh start for all of us. I finally spoke. I asked her if she was serious. She sounded confused. She asked what I meant. I told her she had not spoken to me in 4 months. She had not apologized for missing my graduation. She had not acknowledged anything I said in my speech. And now she was calling to ask me to help sell tickets to her charity event. She started to interrupt, but I kept going. I told her that at my graduation, she was not family. At my graduation, she chose a ski trip over the biggest day of my life. But now that my name could help her look good in front of her friends, suddenly she wanted to be family again. The line was quiet. Then her voice changed. The sweetness disappeared. She told me I was being dramatic. She said I always had to make everything difficult. She said she was trying to extend an olive branch and I was throwing it back in her face. I told her an olive branch would have been an apology. An olive branch would have been showing up. What she was offering was not reconciliation. It was an opportunity to use me. She hung up without saying goodbye. That phone call was the last time I spoke to my mother. I thought it would hurt more than it did. I had spent 31 years hoping she would change, hoping she would see me, hoping that one day I would be enough. But sitting in my apartment after that call, I did not feel grief. I felt something closer to relief. I had spent my whole life waiting for a version of my family that did not exist, waiting for love that was never going to come, waiting for seats to be filled by people who had already decided I was not worth showing up for. That wait was over. I started building a different kind of family. It happened slowly, without me even realizing it at first. Dr. Patricia became more than a mentor. She invited me to her home for Sunday dinners. I met her husband, her daughter, her grandchildren. They welcomed me like I had always been part of their lives. My lab colleagues became more than coworkers. We celebrated birthdays together. We supported each other through setbacks and breakthroughs. We shared meals and late nights and the small moments that turn acquaintances into something deeper. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected during graduate school. People who had always shown up for me even when I was too busy or too distracted to notice. People who had never made me feel like I had to earn their presence. None of these people shared my blood. But they showed up. They stayed. They chose me, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. That was family, the real kind. About 6 months after graduation, something unexpected happened. A young woman named Maya reached out to me through the university. She was a first-year PhD student in the neuroscience department. She had watched my graduation speech and said it had changed her life. Maya was a first-generation college student. Her parents had never understood why she wanted to pursue higher education. They thought she should get a job and help support the family, instead of wasting time with more school. When she got accepted to MIT, her mother told her she was being selfish. Her father said she was abandoning them. Neither of them came to her undergraduate graduation. Neither of them planned to come to anything else. She told me she had spent years feeling like something was wrong with her, like she was broken for wanting more, like she should be grateful for her family and stop asking them to be proud of her. Then she watched my speech. She said hearing me talk about empty chairs made her realize she was not alone. She said it gave her permission to stop waiting for people who were never going to show up. She said it helped her understand that her worth was not measured by her family's absence. She wanted to meet me. She wanted to thank me in person. We met for coffee a few days later. Maya was brilliant and driven and carried the same quiet sadness I recognized from my own reflection. We talked for hours about our research, about our families, about the strange grief of loving people who cannot love you back the way you need. By the end of that conversation, I knew I wanted to help her. I became her unofficial mentor. I helped her navigate the program, introduced her to people who could support her research, and made sure she knew she had someone in her corner. But more than that, I made sure she knew she was seen. Every milestone she hit, I acknowledged it. Every paper she submitted, every presentation she gave, every small victory that her family would never celebrate, I celebrated with her. I could not change what her parents did or did not do, but I could make sure she never had to face an empty chair alone. I used to think family meant blood. I was wrong. Family is whoever shows up. Family is whoever stays. Family is whoever chooses you, not because they have to, but because they want to. Who is your real family? The one who actually showed up when it mattered? I want to know. Drop their name in the comments. They deserve to be recognized. Almost a year after my own graduation, Maya defended her first major research proposal. It was a big moment for any PhD student, the kind of moment that deserved witnesses. I asked her if her parents were coming. She gave me a sad smile and shook her head. She said she had stopped inviting them to things a long time ago. It hurt less than being disappointed. I told her I would be there. She looked at me like she was not sure if I was serious. I told her again. I said I would be in the front row. The day of her defense, I arrived early. I sat in the front row of the small seminar room. I had brought flowers, because that was what you did for moments like this. The seats around me filled with her committee members and a few fellow students who had come to support her. If you are watching this and your family makes you feel invisible, I need you to hear something. The problem is not you. It was never you. Some people are broken in ways that have nothing to do with the people they hurt. You cannot fix them by being better, achieving more, or shrinking yourself small enough to fit into their expectations. You do not have to keep saving seats for people who refuse to show up. You are allowed to build your own family, the kind that shows up, the kind that stays, the kind that chooses you, not out of obligation, but out of love. It is not easy. It is not painless. But on the other side of that hard choice is a life where you finally get to breathe. I never did reconcile with my parents or my sister. Sometimes I wonder what they tell people about me. I imagine they have a version of the story where they are the victims and I am the ungrateful daughter who betrayed them for internet fame. That is okay. They can have their version. I have mine. And my version includes Dr. Patricia bringing me soup when I was sick and staying until I fell asleep. It includes my lab team throwing me a surprise party for my birthday. It includes Maya texting me photos of her small victories because she knows I will celebrate every single one. My version includes a family I built with my own hands, a family that may not share my blood, but shares something more important. They show up. So that is my story, a graduation speech that went viral, a family that chose a ski trip over the biggest day of my life, and the long, slow process of learning that I was worthy of love, even if the people who were supposed to give it never did. If this story resonated with you, I would love to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me your experience. Have you ever had to choose between your peace and your family? Have you ever had to walk away to protect yourself? Subscribe if you want more stories like this, and share it with someone who needs to hear that they are not alone. One last thing. Those 3 empty chairs at my graduation used to represent everything I had lost. Now they remind me of everything I gained. Because when some people refuse to show up, it makes room for the ones who will. And those are the people worth saving seats for. Take care of yourselves. See you in the next.